Well, it is 6:30, so I will call the meeting to order, and we will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Mayor Kratzky, I am present. Groko.
Present.
Kufal is absent tonight. Padilla.
Present.
Rose.
Present.
And Eager.
Here.
Before we approve the agenda, we have a couple changes. We are taking off the senior center, which is 11B under new business. They are looking at another property soon, so we'll add that to a future agenda. And then also Greg Swenson can't be here, but we're gonna keep the item on the agenda, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay. So with that change, I need a motion to approve the agenda for tonight.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion by Rose, seconded by Eager. Any questions or discussion about the agenda? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carried. Moving on to comments, updates, concerns. We don't have any citizens here tonight to speak. Any updates from council members? I will just share, I talked to Lynn and Tony and Steve about this at the end of our personnel committee. I got an email from the mayor of Arlington wanting to meet with me and the mayor of Green Isle and maybe some other people about emergency services. Their fire department might be short in coming years. I saw today, I checked my email just right before this meeting. Julie, the mayor from Winthrop also, I don't know how she found out about it, but she said if you guys meet, I want to be a part of this. So I just want to be the council to be aware this idea is floating around of a meeting. If anyone wants to participate in the meeting, let me know. If you'd rather not I participate in the meeting, or you're okay with me going and listening to what they have to say, let me know. I just wanted to throw it out there. It's all in the early stages and I have no idea what.
Just remember what's happened in the past.
I think that's partly why we should be there to listen, too.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. No, I get it. I'm just,
Yeah.
remember.
The mayor of Winthrop's suggestion was the meeting to start with should maybe be the mayor and city administrators, but also in the past, I was not a part of some of those things that happened, so I would certainly be open to bringing a council member with me that had that history of those agreements that didn't go so well in the past.
Maybe if you let Steve know and then put in our update. That way.
Whoever can go, can go.
Yeah, I'm always open to listening. I'm fine going and listening. And
Right. I'm
Getting
just saying,
information.
caution,
Yeah.
Arlington, caution.
Just to share too, our administrators, Winthrop and Arlington's just got an interim right now, but we've talked about getting together here in the near future too.
Okay,
Talk about that very thing,
okay,
primarily ambulance actually.
yeah. Yeah, and Matt's email was talking about meetings in April or May, so there's no date yet or anything, but just throwing it out there. Any other updates from council? Moving on to city staff, any updates?
I just want to mention, in the list of bills for the month is also that our annual contribution to the fire department pension, in this case it's a para now. You'll recall that that was increased at the end of last year. So you guys have already agreed to that increase, and so we do the annual contribution roughly about this time of year. So I just wanted to point that out.
Sounds good. Anything else? Then we'll move on back to the consent agenda, and I'll take a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Groko, seconded by Eager. Any questions about the consent agenda? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carried. We don't have any public hearings tonight. Communication, requests, and petitions. We have lots of events at the library. Let's talk about cannabis, story time, springtime. David Jones and talking about Charles Lindbergh. Archaeology of Jerusalem by Dan Piaski. We also have Emmanuel Lutheran Church, our school annual auction and dinner. The Senior Expo is coming up, and the Sibley County Cancer Fighters have an event coming up too. So, moving on to department and committee reports and action items. The only one on tonight's agenda is Public Works. So we'll have Ty come up to the podium and give us some updates on a few different things.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The first thing I have is seal coat bids for 2026. These would be covering all of Railroad and the 2 parking lots. We did receive 2 bids, one from Allied Blacktop and one from Pearson Brothers. Pearson Brothers had the low bid of $47,753. I think our budget was 52, something like that, so we are under budget with that. Allied Blacktop was just a little bit higher by about $500. Pearson Brothers has been doing our seal coating for years and years, so I don't see why not to accept that bid. So we're just asking council to approve the bid for the 2026 seal coat project.
Thank you. We are looking for a motion to approve the Pearson Brothers seal coating bid in the amount of $47,753 for the 2026 seal coating project.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Rose, seconded by Eker. Any questions or discussion? Not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carried. Moving on to sidewalk replacement.
Yeah, so there's several small sections of sidewalk that need repaired on First, Second, and parts of Fifth Street. These streets have already been replaced. It's just the sidewalks are starting to buckle here in spots and sink in a couple others. I did attach some maps. See the warning signs there. Those are spots that it's heaved or been an issue. I didn't include Third Street on there because if we do Third Street here in a couple years, it's not really worth, because those sidewalks will get replaced anyway. What I'd like to do is when we go to ask for bids for this project to actually bid it by linear foot. So some repairs might only take one panel a couple feet and some might take 6 feet, and just I want to do it by the linear foot. That way we can get a grand total, kind of a running total, and then they can do however many they can do. So that's how I'd like to do it. Like to contribute about $20,000 to this project. Currently we have about $50,000 available, but I'm going to set aside at least probably $15,000 for patching. We have about $10,000 in patching and about $5,000 in mastic repairs we'd like to do this year too. So that'll give us a decent buffer for anything extra that we have to do later.
The mastic, is that including seal or crack sealing then too?
That's not crack sealing, that's just
I know,
mastic.
but are you,
I don't plan on doing any crack sealing this year. It'll probably be next year. There's one street that needs a mastic repair pretty badly, so I'd like to get on that one and get that sealed up.
Just talking about sidewalks, there's on the sidewalk that goes through the park.
Yeah.
There's just
I
a
know.
small thing where some rebar is showing.
Yep.
And I just always worry about a kid's bike tire hitting
We're
that
gonna
or
put
something.
some liquid sealant in that to try to seal that up
Okay.
this year, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
that'd be
been-
great.
It's been getting worse every year,
Yeah,
yeah. But yeah, that was brought to my attention
okay.
last week, so.
Is there as far as cost, isn't usually the homeowner been responsible for the sidewalks? I'm just kind of curious how that works with how our ordinance is.
It does say that.
So basically, we're just,
But-
basically taking on and just taking care of it.
Yeah, so every time the last couple times there's been accidents on sidewalks, the city's been the one that's been getting sued and ends up paying the bill, it seems like, the last couple.
well, we're not alone, the homeowner is.
Right, yeah. But,
I guess I would put this under maintenance, because he's talking about not replacing like a block, he's talking about a panel here, a couple panels here, and so on.
I don't want to beat a dead horse, but with regard to what the mayor was just saying, you'll be able to drop those cement pads down then and fill them in, or?
yeah, if it's bucked up.
Yeah.
Too bad, they'll just remove those panels and re-pour that
Okay.
little section, yeah. Or if they've sunken down, like when they did those, you'll have a lot of them panels sunken down, because when they did the street project, that's where they ran the water and the sewer, and then they did the sidewalk, and eventually that trench settles a little bit. It's usually what happens.
So tonight, we're looking for a motion to approve sidewalk repairs as discussed in the amount of $20,000.
So moved.
Motion by Padilla, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Groko. Any further discussion or comments?
I mean, obviously with the 20,000, depending on what the contractor.
Yeah.
I think the goal would be to go after the most.
Yep, I'll
Worst.
bring back the bids to council, yeah. I just didn't want to exceed up to 20,000.
Sure.
So,
And we should maybe amend that motion to,
Up to.
up to the amount of 20,000. It's
yeah.
written as in the amount of 20,000, so.
Up to.
You're gonna come back.
Yeah, I'll come back with the lowest bids. Yep.
Are you willing to amend? that?
Yes, I'm willing to amend the motion.
Okay. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carried.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
The I and I.
I have nothing on that yet.
Next, under unfinished business, on 10A, we have the Swenson property lease agreement.
So as you recall, Greg Swenson was at our last meeting on February 25th, and he was asking for some changes to our existing lease agreement that we have with him for that vacant lot that the city owns that's immediately to the east of his building that he parks used vehicles for sale on. He's been doing, utilizing that property for several years. He explained that it's the insurance that he has to maintain. Within the agreement, we do spell out the coverages that he has to have, and he is basically stating that that cost of that insurance, just to have that, is getting fairly expensive, considering what he's using it for, and really it's just putting vehicles out there, and that's it. I'm just kind of reiterating what he stated. And so there's not like a lot of traffic or even pedestrians, traffic through there, so it's very nominal. So again, he was asking for some consideration for that, possibly to lower the insurance requirements on the property. I do recall there was also a mention, could he simply purchase the property from the city? Since the meeting last month, staff did have a chance to look at that parcel. It is a fairly busy parcel in regards to utilities. As you know, we've got that big storm sewer pipe, comes from the pond, it goes right through there. It essentially follows a gravel road that the city owns. That's our access back to the pond. That's all part of our property. It's all part of this lot or parcel. And that storm sewer line comes through there. But there's also a couple other water lateral lines through there. Let's see. The storm sewer pipe is a 36-inch pipe, and it's about 10 feet deep. And then there's two other storm sewer pipes that come through there, and there's also a water main that's kind of through there too. I can send this around. Kind of gives you an idea of what's through there. And I think maybe in some regards, that's why we've never sold the property, is that we have so much going on there. Again, we have that road that gives us access to the pond, and that's important to us. So I guess from a staff standpoint, our recommendation would be not to sell the property, simply because of what we all have in there. Granted, you could do a blanket easement over the whole thing, but then you're dealing with, potentially, Greg's been great to work with over the years, but at some point he very possibly could sell the property, and then we'll be working with somebody else. The business could change, everything could change over there. So again, our recommendation would be not to sell the property. So tonight, I guess the decision needs to be made if you're going to make any changes to their insurance requirements, what Greg was asking for, or just to continue, if he wants to lease the property from us, to leave the agreement as is.
And what was Mitchell's take as far as lowering it?
Say that again.
You said you talked to Mitch Wenstoff about lowering, well, I mean,
I just got his opinion on the coverages that we had, and he felt that they were were reasonable.
for us to stay where we're at.
Correct.
I guess it'd be nice to know what the actual cost savings for Greg would be. You know, if it's gonna save him $100 for the year to switch it down, well, then that makes no sense to change it for $100. You know, because it might not really be that big of a cost savings. You know, I don't know what he's been quoted, but.
I don't know either. He didn't share that.
I can tell you it's pretty typical in lease arrangements like this to have insurance requirements. I think that's what the insurance broker Mitch passed along, that even the policy limits, the 500 per occurrence, million per event, I believe is where it's at, is in line with what you see in these leases. And so, I mean, from the city's perspective, we're leasing this property to him. And by virtue of doing that, we don't want to create liability for us. There's only $1,200 being exchanged as part of this lease a year. And, you know, if we're doing that for $1,200, but potentially leaving ourselves open to a $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 lawsuit, then, you know, the economics don't necessarily make as much sense for the city. So, because I can tell you that if somebody gets hurt on this parcel as part of his operation, the city will get named in that lawsuit. And if we don't have it in the lease that says, you know, you need to essentially defend the city from this, I'm not sure how much liability there would be, but we would be part of that lawsuit. If we don't have it in the lease that says his insurance has to take care of the city, then it defaults to our insurance and becomes a claim on our league policy, which, you know, is not ideal. So, you know, that's why it's in the lease in the first place, is to try and reduce all the city's exposure. So, you know, it's like anything in a lease, it can be taken out, it can be put in, but council should understand that if we take it out, then, you know, that's just liability that then the city has to take on. And it's not our land, it's not our operation, so we don't have much control over what's going on out there in terms of, you know, are people looking at these cars safely? Are there any risks? I don't know. It seems like a pretty innocent operation out, like there's not much chance for somebody to get injured or hurt, but, you know, I guess
It only takes once.
anything can happen. So, you know, I guess it's a very conservative clause to have in a lease to protect the city, but it's typically one that you're gonna want to have in the lease when you're letting out your land.
Well, and looking at the comments from Mitch, the city's getting about half of what the normal going rate is. 500 and $1 million versus 1 million and 2 million, so I think you're already giving them a break there, and again, I agree, I think if something happens, we're gonna be in a bind. It's just a bad situation.
It is. And the only thing I could think is to maybe meet Greg's is, you know, do we look at how much he's paying us? You know, if his insurance cost is getting so great for that piece of property that we really don't want used for anything else, do we renegotiate what our rent is? That's just an idea thrown out there.
We haven't changed our rent since we started, what, 4 years, 5 years ago?
Well, I think there was
That's-
many years that they didn't pay rent, period.
Correct.
So,
Just leave it and
yeah, it
part of
hasn't-
business.
Okay.
At least since 2019.
Yeah,
So it's been 5 years and we haven't changed the rent. I mean, technically as renters, I mean, we could raise our price too, so. I'll make a motion to, approve the property lease as it was without changing the, insurance.
We have a motion by Rose. Do we have a second?
a second.
Seconded by Padilla. Any questions or discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carried. Moving on to 10B, we have ordinance number 380. Ordinance vacating a public street.
So this is in regards to Tower Street. This is actually the second reading of this ordinance. So included also in your packet is a summary for publication purposes. But basically, as you recall, we had to backtrack on this one a little bit. The council had approved it in a resolution back in January, and then we found it in our charter that we have to actually approve any vacation of a street in an ordinance format, and so that's why we're here going through this process. So again, this is a second reading, and once it is published, the summary is, it would become effective.
So tonight we need a motion to adopt ordinance number 380, an ordinance vacating a public street.
So moved.
We have a motion from Padilla. Do we have, seconded by Eker. Any discussion or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carried. Next, we need a motion to approve the summary of ordinance number 380 and its publication.
So move.
Motion from Rose. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Groko. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carried. Next, we have ordinance number 381, an ordinance amending the City of Gaylord zoning code.
This too is a second reading in of this ordinance, 381. This is in regards to some zoning code amendments, specifically to the architectural standards and guidelines section of the code. The Planning and Zoning Commission is recommending amending that we would allow for industrial and commercial buildings to have horizontal and vertical steel panels. Right now, we just simply state that they can have horizontal. And then secondly, that we would allow, again, in commercial and industrial buildings, that they could have concealed or non-concealed fasteners for steel siding and roofs. And then lastly, that we would, in the residential districts, we would require them, if they want to have metal roof and siding, that the fasteners would have to be concealed. So those are the proposed changes. Again, there's a summary of ordinance 381 in your packet as well, and the ordinance, again, becomes effective upon publication of the summary.
We need a motion to adopt ordinance number 381, an ordinance amending the City of Gaylord zoning code.
So moved.
We have a motion from Eker. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Rose. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carried. Next, we need a motion to approve the summary of ordinance number 381 and its publication.
So moved. Second.
Motion from Groko, seconded by Eker. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carried. Next, moving on to 10D, personnel policy amendment.
At the February 25th meeting, the council had somewhat of a lengthy discussion about one of the items in reference to our personnel policy that we were proposing at that meeting as far as amendments or changes. This was in reference to sick leave and the number of hours that staff can accrue up to, the maximum basically. Currently, the maximum accrual for sick leave is 960 hours. Again, we get 8 hours per month, so it would virtually take 10 years to reach that without taking any sick leave. So the council had talked about different, or discussed different scenarios as far as what to do. This is, again, a recommendation coming out of the Personnel Committee that we would at least do some change there. I think the consensus was the 960 hours was excessive. So we'd like to make some sort of change. So you directed me basically to come back with some options. You know, these are not all inclusive here, but there's 4 options, and some of these are in what was actually discussed at the last meeting. The first one here is basically to, basically setting a date. So any full-time staff hired after whatever date the council would set could accrue up to a maximum of hours of whatever, again, you would set. But any existing staff would be allowed to continue to accrue sick leave up to the 960. And again, if you work here 10 years and you separate from the city, whether you retire or move on to some other job, you're entitled to, if you leave in good standing, 1/2 of that as far as being paid out. The second option here, again, this was brought up, to change the maximum accrual. The committee, the personnel committee had recommended 500 hours. It was suggested maybe bumping that up to 600 hours. And then anything over, if anybody's got anything over that, that they could bank those hours and utilize those first. They would not be a cash payout on those, anything that would be in the bank, but that would be another option. Another option was mentioned to go ahead and just simply go ahead and pay out anybody that has in excess of whatever the maximum you would set at this particular time, and pay out half of that, kind of keeping in line with our current approach. Or you could alternatively do something less than the 50% too. And then lastly, I put in here just possibly to consider establishing PTO. And generally how that's converted over, things are converted over to PTO as vacation. 100% of that's converted, and then you identify a percentage or a number of hours that you would convert over to PTO. And then anybody that would have of sick leave that you would convert over to PTO. And then anybody that would have anything above and beyond whatever would be allowed to convert over, that could be put into a catastrophic sick bank, and they could utilize that for certain qualified events, likely major events. And you could set something up where they would have to use a certain number of their hours of PTO before they would be able to utilize that bank, that catastrophic sick bank. So that would be another option as well. So those are just 4 options. I'm sure there's others, but there's a lot of different ways. There's, you think about different cities and counties. There's really no set, it's whatever you feel comfortable with. It's not something out there that you can say, yep, that's what we do for something like this.
Believe it or not, I actually agree with the personnel committee. First time I think ever.
Happy birthday to me.
Happy birthday to you. And actually, do we do the comp time and vacation time? Is there max on that stuff too?
Yes. The vacation is you're allowed to accumulate, or you're allowed to carry over from year to year up to a maximum of 160 hours.
Okay.
That's all we have. Comp time is only reserved for police officers. It's in the contract, the union contract.
Okay.
They get it up to 40 hours a year, but that's union contract. They can up to a maximum of 40 hours, but they have to use it during the year that they earned it, or we pay it out at the end of the year. Otherwise, no other staff gets comp time.
I like PTO, just because in my personal experience, I wasn't sick, and then that was just more vacation time for me versus, I don't mean to punish people, because, you get sick, I understand that. But that's where you use your PTO time then, and I just like, I like that better.
I like how PTO simplifies things, and I just think when we're tracking things like earned sick and safe leave, and we're just tracking
There's
so
so
many
many.
different things with vacation and sick leave and that earned sick and safe time. Does it just simplify it and make it cleaner?
And paid time off is paid time off. There's no, I'm using a sick day, and then somebody else, I saw him shopping, or, there's
Right.
none of that.
It doesn't
It's
matter.
never happened, but
It's
you just-
PTO, it's PTO.
Yeah.
so,
It's a day
yeah.
off, because
cleaner.
it's your earned sick day,
However
or
you
your
want to
earned
do
day
it,
off.
yep.
I don't know. What do you mean? I agreed with what you had up here in red, and now you're saying you want PTO?
No, I like the thought of PTO. We talked about, remember, I was gone one
Yeah.
meeting, but
I think I was gone that same meeting.
I like PTO. No, I think that it was excessive and we needed to do something with it. We talked about PTO, it's a little bit, in my opinion, maybe a little bit more complicated conversion to go from vacation and sick to PTO. But I do like PTO.
And we've talked about this in personnel, we've thrown this back and forth. Do we convert? What do we do? What do we do? And, the consensus has always been just leave it as is for now. But if we're gonna change things, maybe this is a time, and maybe we need more time, not even at tonight's meeting. But I do think more and more places are going to PTO. It might factor into future hires, just to make us competitive employer, I cannot talk. I don't know, so I think it's something we need to do eventually. are we ready to do it now? I don't. I mean, that's up to the council.
I think it'd be a very in-depth conversation. I think tonight you could definitely probably make a decision between what numbers 1, 2, and 3, but if we decide to go with number 4, that might be a question of, it's a union contract year, talk with what they want to do, and then talk with the rest of the employees and the personnel committee to, because if you go to PTO, then you gotta figure out, okay, well, what's your new max? What's your accrual? What's your,
I
hey,
think,
what are we gonna pay out that you don't use? I mean, that's
right,
a
it's a bigger
decision.
conversion, I agree.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it could be done just like, oh, let's do a conversion to PTO, but,
Steve will have a busy day tomorrow.
yeah.
Could we?
Actually,
could we-
with the state, we have sick time, comp time, and vacation time, and we have caps on everything. And if you don't use your vacation and you're over the max, you lose it.
Right,
50% on the paid out for sick time, and then comp time, now they want that zeroed out at the end of the year as well. So, I mean, everybody's cutting down their stuff.
Yeah, I
even-
think-
And they're still keeping it separate, I mean, it's not,
right.
and
You
it's just,
can keep it separate.
yeah.
I
It's just-
like PTO.
And I agree with Lynn. I mean, I had PTO in Norwood. Steve, I think, was there when they did that.
Yeah,
but-
my personal preference is also PTO, just because I've had it. I've had both, and, I mean, it simplifies things, like Dawn said, from a staff standpoint, and I've never personally done a conversion. Certainly, others have done it. I mean, there's a lot of cities now out there that have it, counties as well, and the business community too. So I certainly, there's probably some examples that we might be able to tap into. The counties, as I shared, theirs was extremely one-sided. Basically, in that particular case, their staff didn't lose anything. I mean, they got 100, everything was converted. I mean, it was quite
They're all-
one-sided.
And I can say as a county, I checked, since we talked about a PTO, we can carry 700 hours of PTO.
That's a lot.
It's less than the 960 though, but yeah. I mean, that's
But
what
it's some of it, as far as payout though, there's different max as far as payout we don't use, aren't there? Because like if you would leave, you don't get just paid out the full 700 hours, it's
I
split.
can't
now.
remember what it was. I looked at the personnel policy, but
And that'd be something
that
we'd have
was
to
like
look
a few
into.
weeks ago.
Yeah.
So I should have printed it. And not that we have to do what Sibley County does, but
I mean, them being in town too, I mean, as far, especially on the police department side, they have the sheriff, that's one, we do compete against the county in a sense, so, I mean, not saying we have to go that directly, but it would make us more compatible within our market,
Can we see what it would cost? Like, I think the PTO is gonna cost a lot of money to the city to convert over to it. Can we see like a comparison between like 3, where you're gonna pay out the people that are already at that maxed hours 50% to go down to the 500 versus the PTO cost? Cause I think the cost of the PTO, well, nice, I like that it gets rid of a lot of things. It's gonna be very expensive for the city.
But then how do you gain the PTO? Because right now you get what, 4 hours of vacation and 4 hours of sick time, or just 4
You
hours of sick time, or what? How do you
combine it
accrue
usually.
It's
No,
usually
because
like
then-
you gain it about the same. It's just PTO, so PTO is your sick.
I
and your
understand that,
vacation.
but where we're getting paid out, you're only gonna get paid out 50%.
Correct.
And then we'd have to account for more money in the budget. I mean, we have to account for it more, unless we cut the hours.
Yeah, and I mean, I would definitely say, that'd be part of the discussion, that's where it comes into, this might be something where maybe I know you guys are busy with, other paperwork right now and the personnel file, but, maybe a conversation we have this year and see what all the other employees think of it and what you guys would like to see.
Or we could wait till next year, because I mean, it's gonna have to be a budget thing too.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
We always wait till next year. I think we have to do something.
What's happening
But-
this year that it wants to be next year?
Yeah, Jessica.
Steve, is there any way that you could just kind of get some numbers and figure out what it would cost and see what other people are doing? Because I agree, we can't let them cash out 720 hours at the end at full price. That's going to kill the city. So
well, and that's the whole reason why we brought this up, because of like budgeting.
Just
If we would
budgeting.
have 2 retirements in 1 year of people with 960 hours, like,
Right.
ooh, that'd be, put us in a crunch budget from a budget standpoint. So I don't want to do something and then get ourselves in that same predicament.
So is this gonna go back down to the personnel committee then?
Sure.
I think we need to study
Well-
this, but I think the council needs to give some direction, like, because we've tossed this back and forth
Yeah.
in the personnel committee for how long? Like, we need some direction, like, as our goal to look at, you know, what we currently have and making some changes, or to eventually go to PTO, because I don't think it really makes sense to make changes to what we currently have if that's gonna be
Yeah.
the end result.
No, because I still think we can cut down the sick time to 500 and still 960 and getting paid out 50% after 10 years. I mean, what's wrong with that?
They're gonna get their money.
Well, and the thing is, when we switch to PTO, you can keep that 500 still as the cap.
Do we want 500 hours of PTO?
Well, the county does 700. I mean,
Good for
500
them.
is still, I'm just saying as far as
It's a
competing.
lot. I mean, the reason we do it is so people don't take like the whole summer off, the whole winter off. I mean, not saying it's happening, but it could.
The count, and Don, I don't know if you are familiar, I mean, I assume on vacation time, there's a cap to how much consecutive you can take off without, like, council or board approval. I mean, obviously, if you fall and break your leg, that's one thing, you're out. But, if I'm gonna go on a 2.5-month-long vacation where I know about it, I'm assuming that's something,
I don't know if that's. in
When the county, you
personnel.
have
I mean,
to-
But all your PTO is subject to supervisor's
Mm-hmm.
approval, so like, if you're creating a hardship for your department, that's probably not
Correct.
gonna happen,
so I'm assuming there's some sort of approval process to go through when it's extreme, because I agree with you, if all of a sudden you took off 6 months, it's, for a vacation.
And like I said, we don't have to do what the county is doing, and they are a larger employer with than what we are, but I do think we should look at what other cities have done.
And with sick time, you call on sick, you don't need approval. You break your leg, you don't need to get approval. You're out.
You're out.
And you have the sick time, you're out. You don't need anybody's approval. You know what I mean?
I guess my only concern in all of it is that the people that are already maxed out at close to that 900 hours, that when we do cut it off at 500, they're getting paid that 50% or whatever that payout is, because it's not. Yeah,
They should make the difference.
yeah, if they've been here that long, and they've got that many hours, it's not fair
Yeah.
just to say, you're down to 500.
I don't know how many people.
2, I think.
It affects
Maybe
either.
2 or 3.
State didn't care.
They're mean, Jessica.
And if that's the case, then I think.
So how many hours would somebody lose? Is everybody up to 960 hours? Couldn't see that happening.
No.
No, we don't have anybody right now.
Right.
So it's nice to fix it now before you have a group of them, but.
See, so what are you talking about, people losing their money? There couldn't be
Well,
anybody up at
there's-
960
but if
hours
you-
But there's a
right now.
few of them over 500.
Yeah.
So like
that's
you're
what
at
I'm
least
saying.
paying
People
something.
over
out.
500,
You know,
How
I'm-
much over 500?
there's gotta be at least 3 or 4.
There's 2 or 3 employees. But yeah, there could be, in some cases, more than a couple hundred hours.
But either way, the city's gonna
pay
pay
it
it out
out.
eventually.
No.
I guess as far as this, I like option 3 and then paying out the difference, just be done with it. That way the people who have it built up obviously have taken care of themselves to the point that they have it built up, and I think I know I'd be upset if all of a sudden it just disappeared.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'd be using a lot of sick time leading up to this decision, I guess, and
so can you, Steve, kind of put together what that would cost to do number 3 with those over 500 hours?
You're talking about 50%, whatever number of hours over the 500, 50% of that,
Yes,
half of that. Okay.
If they've been here 10 years.
if
or
they've been here
longer.
10 years.
I just want to make sure that we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, they would have had to be in here at least 10 years
To be able to
to get that high.
to get that
Right.
high, Yeah.
Well, even 5 years, I guess. 500 hours.
I know, it's not in here, I know we talked about it, but as far as, so the employees that are over 10 years, basically taking away this, going up to 960, last council meeting, we did talk about adding, because we added hours to the vacation on steps 2 and 3, about adding just a little bit on the top end too. I'm only bringing it up just because it's not, I know we talked about it, because I mean, when you're here for 10, 15 years, we're basically taking away from them, longer tenured employees, and then I'd like to at least balance it out a bit too. I mean, as long as we're all on that same page yet, I think that's how we left it last time. To add a few hours, to add a few extra hours on the vacation time, the vacation time on that top tier.
Oh,
What, for the 15-year option, when you're here for 15 years?
yeah, you adjusted the two in the middle.
Correct, and so as far as taking this away from, the people who've been here for 10-plus years would likely be in that 160-hour range now. It was brought up to adding hours on that
Practically,
too.
almost all of our full-time staff are almost at that level now.
Correct, and so like those are all the staff that would have the benefit of possibly being at 960 hours. They'd have
So
that.
you're just
capability.
increasing the top end to like 180 or whatever.
Yeah, bump it up just like we bumped the other two to basically offset the taking away of allowing up to 960 hours.
So what is the cap now? Is it 15 years they gotta have to get to 160? So then maybe at 16, start at the 180 or 200, I don't know.
Yeah, go up,
We
either
looked at
add
some other
two.
cities, they did like 170
Yeah.
something, was a number some cities did.
Sure.
I can't remember what it was, 172, 176.
I just want to make sure we're not encouraging our employees to leave after 10 years. Especially when the two middle ones went up.
So you're saying you just want to add them to be able to carry on more, or you're saying you're giving them more at 15 years? Or what?
So without having the sheet in front of me on what, I think it's 160 is what you maxed out at 15.
It's 160 hours currently maxing, and I think what you're saying is increase that to,
Do it like 180, like Tony said, or 184 would be 3 days, I guess.
To let them carry that amount over for a
To
year?
get that for the year. So
They
that'd
would
be,
earn
that'd be their
They
earn.
would earn it.
Because like I said, in the last council meeting, we raised the middle two, but not the bottom or the top, because there's 4 different tiers. Well, now taking away the 960 from somebody who's been here for 10-plus years, I think you got to make up for a little bit, especially to keep us competitive with other employers. 'Cause, I mean, what'd you say, is someplace at 170 or something you saw?
Yeah, but 960 was sick time, and you're talking.
He's talking
about
vacation.
And
On
he's talking
vacation.
about vacation, so.
Yeah.
So we're taking out the 460, you're able to bank up on sick time, and then you're replacing, like I said, even if it's 2 days, so 16 hours more or something.
But sick time only gets half
Yeah.
paid out.
Right, and
Where
he's talking,
PTO gets it full paid out, yep. I mean,
Yeah.
vacation, I understand what he's saying.
Is
Right.
vacation paid out?
Yes.
Yes,
The
vacation.
whole thing?
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Even at the end of the year when you don't use it? Or is it just when you leave?
You,
When you leave.
yeah,
right?
only when you leave.
When you
It's
leave.
only a cash payout when you leave.
Yeah, so like
know.
so at the end of the year, you're only gonna pay out an extra 16 hours then. Because if you don't use it this year, you'd lose it.
You lose it, we don't pay it out.
Correct. And so really, you're only paying out them extra hours, them other extra 16 hours. It's not banking up for 10 years. So it costs the city 2 more days of pay.
I'm not disagreeing. I think that's a good idea, but I think this is probably separate maybe. And then we take that up again, maybe at the personnel committee, we look at
Okay.
that. Because I know you're right, we did adjust the middle. And
Because there was such a long wait
Yes, it was a
before you
long
could
wait.
yeah, like,
move up in your
Yes.
time.
it was brought up, so.
Yeah.
But I think it does need to, does need to be looked at. I don't know what cities are around us, but I know where I work, it's 200 is our max. So it's a lot more.
And is that vacation time or is that PTO total?
We don't get PTO, it's just.
So it's vacation and sick would be
vacation.
separate?
Yep.
So even if you had 2 more days, that's 16 out, we'd still be well under that 200, so it's not like we're setting the bar. And I'm fine, again, I get it, going back to you guys, looking what other towns are doing, I just wanna make sure that, like I said, we're not encouraging our people
Yeah.
who've been here the longest, like, well, I'm
Now
losing
what?
900, I could bank up to 960, and yeah, you're getting paid out, but I is able to, and then got paid out when I left. And I just wanna make sure that they get a little something, and 2 more days don't hurt, I don't think, too much.
and I think it's good for longevity, because I know you get to that point where you've been at a place for a really long time, and it just seems like,
The new people get paid out a bunch of stuff and all these new things, and
so, I'm not opposed to that idea.
Okay, now, so on our sick time here.
you got a motion in mind?
I
We're
don't
looking
know, I forgot like 5
We're
minutes
gonna look
ago.
at 3.
Well, yeah, we
So-
I think
wanted
we-
Steve to look at
If,
3.
I mean,
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna look at what 3 would cost us to do that. And then once we know that, we can make a decision if we're gonna do,
Okay.
if the council's okay with that.
Sounds like it.
Okay.
Almost made a motion.
You
We
don't
don't
need a
need a
consensus then.
No.
We just
Just-
need consensus.
Just direction, yeah.
Perfect.
So hopefully next meeting we get it figured out.
Yes,
Right.
This is what, 3 times now?
Yeah.
third time, we'll get it figured out, but I like that idea, so. Okay, are we ready to move on? Now we have under new business, ordinance number 382, an ordinance amending the City of Gaylord zoning code.
Yes, the planning and zoning has been busy, looking at our zoning code. Right now, a couple changes here, what they're looking at amending and proposing to the council. The first one is creating a definition for what's referred to as contractor operations. So on page 100 is the proposed ordinance amendment, and it gives a definition. Basically, a contractor operation is a land use involving the staging, operation, and administration of a business in the building construction trade. A location where a contractor maintains an office and may have indoor and/or outdoor storage of materials, tools, and construction equipment. These could be like plumbers, electricians, HVAC people. Those are the kind of common ones. There could be others, of course, as well. But basically, right now, we do allow for contractor operations. In fact, we actually call it that in our industrial zones, but we have no definition or description of what that is. And so that's why we came up with this definition. The planning and zoning then, discussion evolved to allowing it also in our commercial districts, mainly because we already have these types of businesses in the commercial districts. And so that's why they're proposing to allow them in all 3 commercial B1, 2, and 3 districts. The last change is in respect to commercial and industrial building signs, basically a wall sign on the face of a building. Currently, our code only allows for 1 wall sign, and that they can only occupy up to 20% of the building, or actually, it's just 1 wall sign, period, pardon me. What the planning and zoning is proposing is we'd like to expand that, and we'd like to have it associated with actually the size of the face of the building. And so what they're recommending is, versus having a number of signs that they could be allowed, just to tie it to a percentage of the building face. So their proposal is to make it 25% of the building face. So that way, a business is not at a disadvantage, whether they have a large building or a small building, everybody's getting the same amount. So that's where they came up with that. So that's their recommendation, those 2 changes for the zoning code. So this was just a public hearing that was held last week by the planning and zoning. And we did not have anybody from the public at the meeting. No, we didn't receive any questions or comments about these proposals. So I'll take any questions if there's any.
Just to clarify, as far as being a contractor, does that basically mean that you have to have a professional contractor's license? So like a master electrician, master plumber, whatever it might be. The reason I ask is, so who's to say, somebody in town, like, oh, this is for my professional, and they just have like junk everywhere? How do you dictate what's actually staged versus somebody just pulling it full of clutter? And so it says contractor. I want to make sure that, okay, they're a professional business that's doing this.
We're still dealing with one of those issues in town where it's supposed to be a welding shop or.
And that's where it's a contractor. Where do you define that then?
We didn't come up with a specific, I guess, we didn't get that detailed.
I would like to see a definition of a contractor. I guess added in, like I said, make sure that we don't have that where somebody can use an argument that they're contracting for somebody. Because to be a contractor, then you could say, oh, I have a written contract to build this one thing, and I'm a contractor. And then you're good for a year.
Certainly could come up with something like that, too. I mean, if that's what you want to do. Do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, I mean, Chord's a little.
I mean, you're the one who has to defend it, so what's your thought?
Well, I mean, that's as specific as you can be in a zoning ordinance, that's, ideal, with the acknowledgement that you can't define everything. But, in this case, what you brought up is probably worth adding some definition language in there that, ties it to a state filing or a state license and their business, operating as a contractor in the ordinary course. So it's still, I mean, no matter how many words you throw at it and however many whereases you dream up, proving use and enforcing the zoning code based on use is always going to be a tricky thing. And I think that's where you hear it come up in the other contexts that, if there's ever a question, if someone's in violation of a zoning code in this context for this ordinance, and whether they're a contractor or whatever, just because we have a definition doesn't necessarily strip away all that complexity. But it probably would make it easier if we at least had some baseline. It still would be pretty broad, but some baseline definition of what a contractor is.
It helped, like you said, the more you can start with a base and then go from there. And the contractor part is a very important word, I think, in that, in this line.
Yeah, I guess I know that we've had issues with some people that say they're contractors, maybe don't have a license, so I think just the definition as well. It looks good. I would just ask for that definition.
If that's the consensus, then what I'd ask is that you table this item to our next meeting, but you'd need to make a motion to table that.
I'll make a motion to table it.
Second.
Motion by Rose, second by Padilla to table the motion. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carried. Okay, so then we'll move on to 11C, contract for building official.
Going back to our first meeting of the year, I had shared what contracts were going to be expiring this year, and you guys had agreed at that time to only request, a proposal from our current building inspector, Darren Haslip of 101 Development Resources. He's been with the city for several years. Our current contract has a 3-year term on it, and it expires on April 5th of this year. Darren has submitted a new contract for your consideration. Essentially, it is exactly the same as the current one. He did not increase the fees at all. The language is exactly the same as well. So it's basically the same service proposal that he had for the past 3 years. I was just visiting with Mark before the meeting. If acceptable, we would propose, as far as the effective date on a new contract, it would commence on April 5th. We would let the current one run its course and then begin this one right away at that point. Again, for another 3-year period.
Okay, so tonight we need a motion to approve the contract for building official inspection services with 101 Development Resources Incorporated.
You should add with an effective date of April 5th,
With an
2026, is that the date?
effective
Yes.
date of April 5th,
April 5th, yeah.
2026.
So moved.
We have a motion from Eker. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Rose. Any discussion or comments?
Yes, I have both. My concern with signing for another 3 years is I have heard from many community members as personal experience that a lot of these permits aren't being followed up in the correct fashion. For example, permit that you leave on your house isn't signed when he's saying he's conducting this inspection. It's happened numerous times. I've gotten reports that he is going up to people that he knows and say, for example, it's a roof that's supposed to be done. He'll go up there, and if it's somebody he knows, he doesn't even complete the inspection. So as a homeowner, that definitely puts me in a position where I'm paying for this permit so that the work can be validated, that it's of quality, and this guy's not doing it. Plus, we're not getting any sort of, anything back from them on when this inspection has happened or what the results were. I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing the permits pulled, but, for example, I've had 3 roofs in 10 years, and I don't think I've seen one signed permit or gotten any information. Permits have been approved before jobs have been completed. I just think that what was happening right here in the city, with the experience level, I don't know what the status is, but I think that we should be looking at other options, especially, you know, I've heard a lot about MinSpec before was being too difficult, enforcing their standards while they're enforcing code. And if the contractor doesn't like that, that's concerning that they don't want to make sure they're at code. Even with that being said, MinSpec has recently been sold. There was a lot of issues I've heard before in other cities, but now apparently they're doing a stellar job, and they also make sure that there are constant coordination between them and the city. So if this is something that the city wants to push forward, I guess I would ask that the current motion be tabled and we go to a 1-year term so we can look at additional contractors for this area.
I guess I've heard nothing but good things, to be honest. You know, so I know there's, obviously you get bad experience with certain people once in a while, and that's how it is. I mean, I guess it's just hard to hear that you've heard so many bad experiences. I've heard nothing but good experiences. And that's
I've
why,
heard nothing, so that's usually good.
yeah, and that's.
Well, I could tell you all my personal experience, but I've been told I can't. So there's a lot of them. And it's just one person over and over and over again.
I mean, just to, I guess, coming from a construction thing, one thing about an inspector, they have to do is meet the minimum standard of the state. You know, so that's one, you know, you have some contractors that go above and beyond. I know there's stuff like on videos that TikTokers make that are inspectors where they really hound on things. And I mean, just to throw it out there that they just need to meet the state minimum standard. You know, and so there's certain things where maybe a homeowner maybe thought, hey, this person didn't do this, but technically it meets state minimum. And I'm not disagreeing, I just want to make sure that I'm hearing the right context from you, not that it was one person who's just upset about something.
It's not. I've heard that he's literally gone onto people's property, and he says he has permission to do that, to stare in windows. That came up at one of our council meetings to see where they're at. The store next to the gas station, somebody bought that. They were trying to proceed with building that, and he did everything he could not to assist them, so that the plans and approval, all that had to go to the state because he wouldn't deal with it. I mean, there's been countless things, one after another, that have happened with this inspector. And personally, I think that if you're getting a permit and it's on your door, when that work is done, that permit should be signed. That's why you leave it out, right? So that he can assign it. And if they're not getting signed, then give me a date when you came there. I'll look at my ring camera to see if you were there. There's no reason why this should be a big mystery that these inspections are happening. I have to pay for that permit fee, or whoever's getting that work done has to pay for that permit fee. And part of that is making sure that the inspection's getting done and it's getting done to standard. I'm telling you, I've heard from numerous people that are in the business that he doesn't inspect, which is concerning.
So we could probably talk to him about making sure that he's notifying the city that he's signing them. Because I know that window you're talking about, that was for a person who didn't get a permit at all. And the store you're talking about, that was for that was unfinished and he wouldn't sign off on windows because they didn't have them in.
What are you talking about?
You said there was a store over.
Yeah, they're gonna build a store with apartments above it.
Yeah, and that one, because I know it came up, it didn't have, the windows or something weren't finished. So he didn't sign off on them because they weren't in yet and weren't finished.
I don't
Because
know.
we talked about that a while, like a year or so ago.
Yeah, the plans had to get approved by the state because he wouldn't approve them.
The state wouldn't approve them.
He wouldn't approve them. That's why they went to the state.
If it was a commercial business, it's got to be approved by the state. Like, I know like Michael Foods, their permits get approved by the state because it's USDA. And then, like I said, I know the window thing, that was a person who didn't have no permits. And so, I
When
mean,
he was looking in the windows, is that what you're saying?
well, if you don't have a permit and you're caught doing work without a permit, I mean, anybody.
They weren't doing work.
But if he's looking, wouldn't he assume there was work being done?
Well, would you want him walking into your yard, looking inside your house?
You're a police officer, have you ever
No,
looked
I
at somebody's
can't do
houses?
that. It's illegal.
You've never looked?
It's
at a
illegal.
house that you're driving by, and if you see something suspicious,
Okay.
you have probable cause.
I do. Okay.
So doesn't the building inspector, doesn't he have probable cause?
I'm not gonna get into specifics of it. That came before the council. That whole situation was brought before the council. My point is that what he's getting paid to do and what he's doing aren't lining up. I have concern with the fact that he's going to construction site and he's not inspecting because he knows somebody that's at that site. That's not okay with me. It's not okay that he's not signing the permits on the door, saying that he inspected it. These are all things that he should be accountable for. So if he's gonna sign off on these permits and notify the city when the inspection was done, that's one way of helping out, but I don't get that. Do you ever see that?
I guess my permits have been signed when I've dealt with them, but, like, I mean, I've only pulled a handful, so I don't know from a contractor point of view. And like I said, I don't know from your experience what it would be. I just don't, I've never had a problem. I know there's many people that talk a lot of really good things about them, so. I'm not defending, obviously, everybody's got an issue. I mean, it's no different than, you know, anywhere any of us work. There's one person that loves you, one that don't, and I just wanna
Yeah.
make sure that, obviously, these are good things to look into, but I also don't wanna run somebody under the bus that maybe things are okay, but you have a handful of people that for some reason don't like it.
Yeah, and that's what happened with Minspec. They were on the other side of it with their inspections.
They're extreme, basically.
Yeah, the contract.
Yeah, they made somebody put a handicap frickin' bathroom in their garage.
Yeah,
And that's where it comes in, and that's where it comes into it, like, people have to, an inspector has to meet the minimum standard. You know, so that's where an inspector probably went above his job and required something that wasn't necessary.
A little bit, yeah.
Versus, I mean, Darren, I know Darren's pretty laid back, so maybe, I mean, you have maybe a fair argument to say maybe there's a little bit more you should throw in there.
yeah, I think so. I think, again, those are my opinions, and the council can vote on it. There's already a motion out there.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I lost my place where we were. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
No.
Okay, so motion carried.
Sorry.
It's okay, I didn't hear what your vote.
As far as going forward, I guess as long as, I mean, maybe that's stuff when you talk to Darren next, just be brought up and, I mean, I think it's all fair points, just,
Yeah.
not to add on to the conversation, but
I also think it's a good idea in the future that we, if there's another option, we just look into it. I mean, it's not saying, I mean, it's good to get two different bids, two different estimates. I mean, it's always good to look at other options.
Because I think that this did come up before, correct? And then it was brought up that there really isn't hardly anyone
Right.
in our area that would even consider doing it, except the one company that everybody was like, oh, no, we're not doing that, right? So that's kind of how we came down to this. So now I think, like, we've already discussed this once, that this is what we had to do, but yes, I agree that, you know, going forward, I think we need to always look at other options.
as far as keeping it this, you know, you just basically telling Darren, hey, give us a new thing. One benefit is he didn't change nothing. So our price didn't go up, nothing
Right.
changed, you know, and that's one
Nobody's
issue with when you
inspection
bid stuff is you risk, okay, well, now I'm gonna bid to be competitive.
Right.
You know, cause now they go through that time, I guarantee anybody else, the price would have been more.
Right,
You
and I
know,
get what
because
you're
in
saying,
3
but
years,
you're also, maybe we could get a better, you know, something to save money.
Well,
I mean,
I
it's
think
worth,
that-
I just think it's always worth it to look at what else is out there.
Well, and that those inspections should be signed. I mean, if he's been to the house and he's done it, then he should sign it.
And that's as far, I mean, even if we
Right.
approve this, doing that as part of the contract,
It's
that's
like-
why I'm saying, whether
What
we
he
move
needs
forward with
to-
this,
We have to make sure.
either
he
way,
is
that's something as a
doing-
city, we can
Yeah.
audit and just say, hey, make sure this is happening, because
So,
it is the
just because
contract.
I don't know how it works, so if he signs it at the house, then does that come back up to the city, or how does, you know, how do you know it's signed? Do you know what I'm saying?
We only know about the final. I mean, all the inspections in between, we wouldn't
Right.
know, you know, when they're completed. There's just too many permits. We don't keep track of that. All we're concerned about is the project got closed out, it's been finalized, he signs off on
And
it.
that he signed off on it?
Yes.
So how do you find that out? Or
Yeah.
how do you know he signed off on it?
He's supposed to give us a list of all the ones that have been final out
And
in a
he-
given
does
year.
he?
He usually doesn't do it until, you know, for like last year, he wouldn't give it to us until probably now, till this time of year, because the winter months are a little bit slow. Is it quarterly? Okay.
What'd you say?
Every quarter.
Does that say the date of the inspection on it?
So maybe that's something, I mean, as a homeowner, I guess making sure Darren's telling the homeowner that's done, I guess would be the next.
Yeah.
Because obviously if he's communicating that there, and I think that's all easy to talk to Darren about.
Could you
At
also
least
check with
a
the
door
homeowner,
hanger,
like,
you know, at least say.
You know, did Darren let you know that you're signed off, or was it signed off? I don't know.
It's a little bit
How do you-
difficult too, 'cause like on the electrical side, they'll sign the permit and they'll put it in your box, but they never tell you which box it is, so if you really wanna know, you gotta go finding it. You know, usually they put it in one that's up close to the front door, but like I've had it before on the electrician side where the, you know, the electrician or electrical inspector will be there and they'll say he'll be there, but then you walk in, you're like, I don't know if he was here or not, but you gotta look around for the little sticker someplace. You know, and like I
I
said,
think
maybe,
he doesn't even put that online too, the electrical inspector.
I guess I haven't had one in a long time, but I'll find out maybe soon, but,
And we also have from time to time issues too with people just don't realize that they need to call in, or they forget. You know, we tell them that they gotta call for a final inspection, but they don't. And then we're chasing after people sometimes too.
Sure.
So, you know, these things all happen.
so I think this is all addressable stuff, hopefully.
Yeah. I mean, at least talk about it.
Between Lori and Steve, get that figured out, and
Yeah, I'll have a conversation with them.
thank you.
Moving on to 11D, I had brought this up at the beginning of our last meeting. We just had some longtime people that served our community and for a long time pass away recently. And we talked about maybe creating a voluntary condolence fund where we would just all contribute a recommended amount of money. Only if you want to, you don't have to, it would be voluntary. And then just, you know, recognizing those people by sending a plant, you know, on behalf of the city at the funeral. I don't know if the appropriate place to like come up with guidelines and stuff is personnel, or if the city staff have some ideas, or if it's a combination of personnel and city staff. So we just put it on the agenda for something to talk about as a council, if people are willing. I mean, last month, most people seemed like they would be interested in doing something.
What are you thinking for a contribution?
I don't know.
Everything's so expensive.
You know, and the thing about it is hard is we're not gonna catch everyone, you know, people that served on city council, you know, 20 years ago and moved away, and people lost touch, we might not find out they passed away, but, you know, when Bill Walsh and Steve Berner and now Rick Olmec, you know, people that recently, we lost 3 right in a row, and it'd just be nice to have the funds here, not always have to collect money. Make sure, you know, someone taking the helm, making sure a plant gets there,
Yeah,
just to kind of simplify things. And
Yeah.
make sure we catch all those that we can.
I definitely agree. I mean, it's a pain every time to send out a letter and ask for money. It's much easier to contribute once a year.
I guess as part of this too, figuring out who's gonna watch, you know, as far as,
Steve.
you know, Steve's gotta read the obituaries every week. But I mean, like, obviously, probably between, not to give him more work, but one of the ladies up here would probably be the one to, you know, if somebody passes away, to let everybody know, you know, take care of sending flowers.
Well, that part wouldn't change from what we're doing right now. So this would just be establishing a fund. One of the challenges, and staff brought this up to me and asked these questions, as far as, you know, what happens if the fund gets, you know, used up? You know, what do we do then? We're a small staff and we're a small council and all that, you know.
Right.
I mean, unless you have hundreds of dollars in there potentially at one time. You know, usually during the course of a year, you might have a couple events. And, you know, that could be $50 each one or something like that. And then,
And
you know,
what's
it's an
hard-
at-will thing. And so
Yeah.
we could be back to stage 1 where we're still, you know, calling out and seeing if anybody wants to contribute.
Well, if it doesn't work, then I guess we'll go back to the old
And,
way.
and some years you might have a lot, and the next year you might have
Right,
very few. So, I mean, through time, those funds usually will build themselves up.
potentially.
But, yeah, and it's like, we have a similar thing at work that we do, and if the funds run low, we get an email saying, hey, will anyone else, chip in, and, because this is where we're at, and so, I mean, that is something too, and we're trying to avoid that, but sometimes it might be necessary to ask for more, so. It's just something to think about, and if people have other ideas or a better way of doing it, I'm certainly open to that. I would like us to, recognize some of these people for the for their service to the city.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think it's ready to be an agenda item. Maybe we talk about it more at personnel.
Okay.
Bring it back to the personnel.
We can bring back some guidelines and more concrete
The
ideas.
personnel committee can
We're gonna be
personally
so
fund it
busy.
first and
We're
then
gonna be
bring
so
it.
busy.
And we'll take a bond payment out if it ever gets low.
I think it's a good idea too.
I know, I just don't know how to make it happen, so that's where I'm looking for some help and guidance, so.
Table that for now?
Yeah, we'll table, do we need a,
No,
no, because we don't
I
need
think
any action.
we'll just go
so.
back to the personnel with it, and then,
Yeah, and I can bring like an example of like what we do, and we don't have to do it, but maybe just get the ball rolling. So if you guys are having any ideas too, just bring them to me and we'll figure it out.
I want a Dairy Queen cake sent to mine, so just letting you guys know.
You're so young.
Right,
None of
but
us
write
will
it down.
be-
Hey, I just broke my
we'll
leg
all
though,
be
so you never know what might happen.
Never know.
Okay, so we'll work on that and bring that up at a future meeting. 11E, schedule a special city council meeting. This is regarding our meeting with Ridgeview Ambulance Service.
yeah, we're just simply looking to establish it'd be a special meeting, but we're basically having a work session with Ridgeview to talk about some different items here. Some of basically the ambulance services in the area, especially with the city of Arlington, and some of the challenges that they're having right now. Some other items that were brought up recently or this year, some of the calls out at Bayside Manor, especially at Lift Assist, and then probably we're gonna have a little conversation too. We talked about remounting the 2008 ambulance rig. It's in our capital replacement schedule for next year. So we were gonna be talking about that as possibly ordering, again, it would be a chassis, ordering a new chassis and then remounting the box, and then probably doing some updates to that as well. But you'll recall that. So last year when the council talked about it, they were earmarking 2027. So we'll be visiting about that with Ridgeview's folks too. So 5:30, next meeting, April 1st.
Sounds good. So we need a motion to schedule a special city council meeting for 5:30 PM on April 1st, 2026, for purpose of holding a work session meeting with Ridgeview Ambulance Service representatives.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Padilla, seconded by Eker. Any discussion or questions?
We'll hold off the contract discussion until a little bit later. Let them get a little bit more into the year, get their numbers together. So we won't be talking necessarily about the contract yet.
I should be here, but there's a chance I might not be here at 5:30, so just make sure we have last time this came up, everybody was gone, so. I just want to let you guys know, don't count on me. Are you guys all going to be available, so. But back in February, nobody ended up being able to make
It was
it.
that March 4th meeting, no one
Yeah.
would have made it, so we had to move it to February 25th. Okay, so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carried. Anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn from Eker. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Padilla. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Meeting adjourned.